Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balaba Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jashoda Nandana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Jashoda Nandana Jayo Braja Jana Ranjana Ravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Jamuna Tiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Vishnupada Paramahansa Ivra Jakasha Rishta Tadasa Shishimat. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gop Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhana Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki. Shri Mayapur Dhama Ki. Ganga Mai Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki, Janyatai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to some of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Okay, so Krishna is the original person, supreme personality of Godhead. And so then, for Krishna, then his interaction with the devotees is the most pleasing element. And so then, to do that, then the focus has to be put onto the relationship. That's what's important to Krishna, is that focus, that interaction. That's what pleases Krishna. So to do that means then there must be full attention to that. So that's the thing. Nowadays, relationships are there, but it's not necessarily that people put full attention into the relationship. Right? It means they're committed to the relationships. They're want to be involved in them, but at the time, whether they're fully engaged in them, that's another point. So for Krishna, it's that fullness of interaction that gives the fullness of reciprocation from the devotees, and then how the devotees deal, then that's how then Krishna will reciprocate. So that whole aspect of tasting, that interaction, that reciprocation, then is very, very important. Now, for the pastimes to take place, then there's the whole involvement of the environment that's going on, the mechanics of how everything works, that these all have to be in place also, because you perform an action, there's a result, the mechanics of all that, who can do what, all these different things have to be taken care of. So since technically only these things can only be taken care of by Krishna, because these are him, then so he can be fully focused on the pastimes with the residents of Vrindavan, then his expansion as Balram can take care of all these things. So that's why then Balram is known as the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. It means he's Godhead, but his mood is that of service to Krishna. Right? So even though he'll take the mood of the elder brother and all these different things, that's a relationship, that of friendship. And so he'll take care of all these things, because then Krishna doesn't have to worry about these things. Right? So the elder brother, it's natural, he takes care of everything. He takes care of the arrangements, and the younger brother doesn't have to worry. But for Krishna, that taking care means then he can focus just on the relationships. So in this way, then, how Yoga Maya unfolds all the different pastimes and the situations, then Krishna himself, even though he's in control of Yoga Maya, then he puts himself under her arrangements, so whatever comes up, then that's new. And then he deals with that as if he deals with it as a new situation in which to interact with the devotees. Right? Does this make sense? So therefore then, Balaram then takes care of all these kind of things. He takes care of all the arrangements, all the mechanical aspects. All these kind of things are taken care of by him. And in this way, then, that's his service to Krishna. And then Krishna then is the supreme enjoyer. So even though he's the supreme controller, the point is controlling and enjoying means we want to control, because then there's the aspect of that. If I'm in control, then what I'm dealing with will be more stable. So there's a sense of security, because we are not actually in control. And being dependent on the Lord, being dependent living entities, then if we feel if we can control, then it will be secure. But the difficulty comes up is that not actually being the controllers, to be able to maintain control is a very difficult thing, you know. So it distracts from our actual enjoying things, right? It's just like, let's say you're sitting with somebody and they're trying to take care of the arrangements. They can't actually concentrate on interacting with you, because at every moment something's going wrong. So then they're always distracted. Does that make sense? So Balaram takes care of that. That's the whole idea. So we think that being the controller would be a great thing. But for Krishna, he is the controller, and there's no question of him being insecure. It's not like, he has to, on a regular basis, worry about someone coming up and taking over his position. No, he is who he is, and so that's not going to change. Does that make sense? So for him, controlling is not actually an important aspect, because he is in control. So what's fun is acting as if he's not. Does that make sense? Yeah. So then we see that there's two pastimes where then that's focused on Balram, where he's killing the demons. The pastime of Danakasura, and the pastime of Pralambasura. So then, starting with the pastime of Danakasura. Chapter 15, the killing of Danakasura. In this way, Sri Krishna, along with his elder brother Balaram, passed the childhood age known as Kumara and stepped into the age of Pauganda from the 6th year up to the 10th. Right, so from the 1st through 5th, that's called Kumara. And then they perform their pastimes there. But so now, with this chapter, then Krishna, they come into the Pauganda age. So they go into this next group. So from 6 to 10, it's another flavor. At that time, all the cowherd men conferred and agreed to give those boys who had passed their 5th year charge of the cows and the pasturing ground. Because before this, they just took care of the calves. Right? Their business is take care of the calves and make sure the calves don't go over to the cows and drink all the milk. So now Krishna and Balaram, now that they've come up to the stage of 6, now they take care of the cows themselves. Given charge of the cows, Krishna and Balaram traversed Vrindavan, purifying the land with their lotus footprints. Accompanied by the cowherd boys and Balaram, Krishna brought forward the cows and played on his flute as he entered the forest of Vrindavan, which was full of flowers, vegetables, and pasturing grass. The Vrindavan forest was as sanctified as the clear mind of a devotee, and was full of bees, flowers, and fruits. There were chirping birds and clear water lakes, with waters that could relieve one of all fatigue. Sweet-smelling breezes blew always, refreshing the mind and body. Because the breezes would specifically go through those trees that had fragrance, or those areas that had fragrance, and then come and blow on Krishna and Balaram. So then you always got a nice smell, like they go through the sandalwood trees or whatever tree, then they would go and blow that way. Krishna, with his friends and Balaram, entered the forest and, seeing the favorable situation, decided to enjoy the atmosphere to the fullest extent. Krishna saw all the trees overloaded with fruits and fresh twigs, bending down to touch the ground as if welcoming him by touching his lotus feet. He was very much pleased by the behavior of the trees, fruits, and flowers. He began to smile, realizing their desires. Krishna then spoke to his elder brother Balram as follows. My dear brother, you are superior to all of us. Your lotus feet are worshipped by the demigods. Just see how these trees, full with fruits and flowers, have bent down to worship your lotus feet. It appears that they are trying to get out of the darkness that has obliged them to accept the form of trees. So we see is an interesting aspect is that even though it's Balram who's arranging all this through his potencies, and Balaram's done all this to please Krishna, then Krishna is talking about it in relationship to how everything here is arranged to please him. Right? But in pleasing Balaram, it is because it pleases Krishna. Actually, trees born in the land of Vrindavan are not ordinary living entities. Having held the impersonal point of view in their past lives, they have been put into the stationary condition of life. But now they have the opportunity of seeing you in Vrindavan, and they are praying for further advancement in spiritual life through their personal association. Generally, living entities in the mode of darkness attain the body of trees. The impersonalist philosophers are in that darkness, but they eradicate it by taking full advantage of your presence. And so much of the time it's taken that the impersonalists, because they're very scholarly and all that, are very elevated in consciousness. But the problem is when it comes to understanding the position of the Supreme Lord, they're in total darkness. Even a common person has sometimes more understanding of the position of God than these impersonalists. That's why then, once they attain the Brahman and spend that time in Brahman, but when they come back to the world, then they take birth like trees, grass, or even rocks. So with the living entities that are in the most covered by ignorance, they come in that position because they don't accept that the Lord has a form and has senses and can do activities. Therefore, they're put into those kind of forms that have basically the same position. Right? So Krishna is pointing out here that these trees in Vrindavan are different because being in this position, now that they've come to Vrindavan, they've gotten the association of Lord Balaram. Now they're trying to move forward in their spiritual understanding and come to that nice transcendental position. I think the drones that are buzzing all around you must have been your devotees in their past lives. They cannot leave your company because no one can be a better, more affectionate master than you. You are the supreme and original personality of Godhead, and the drones are just trying to spread your glories by chanting at every moment. I think some of them must be great sages, devotees of your lordship, and they are disguising themselves in the form of drones because they are unable to give up your company even for a moment. Because as he goes and he wears the nice flower garlands, then the bees come and they buzz around. So in this way, they don't have to leave his association. Wherever he goes, they can follow. So he's giving that example. The sages are so absorbed in Krishna's, in Balaram's service that this way then they can always stay with him. My dear brother, you are the supreme worshipable Godhead. Just see how the peacocks are dancing before you in great ecstasy. The deer, whose behavior is just like that of the gopis, are welcoming you with the same affection. And the cuckoos who are residing in this forest are welcoming you with their joyful, sweet cries, because they consider that your appearance in their home is so auspicious. Even though they are trees and animals, these residents of Vrindavan are glorifying you. They are prepared to welcome you to the best of their ability, as is the practice of great souls in receiving another great soul at home. As for the land, it is so pious and fortunate because the footprints of your lotus feet are marking its body. And so in the different energies that are there, the Sandini, Samvit, and Hladini Shaktis, or the Sat, Chit, and Ananda Shaktis. So the Ananda Shakti, that's specifically controlled by Krishna. And then that Shakti then gives rise to the devotees who are serving Krishna in the conjugal rasa. Then the Samvit, or the knowledge potency, that expands as the devotees in the parental friendship and servitorship rasas. And the Sandini, or eternality aspect, then that expands as all the different trees and animals and other such living entities. So Balaram is actually in control of the rasas from Shanta up to Vatsalya. And so then naturally for them to be there and serving him and offering respect to him is very natural, because he's the actual lord of these rasas, because these rasas then support Krishna's interaction with the gopis. Because Radha and Krishna then being the Adi Ras, that's the central feature in Vrindavan. So all other rasas are there to bring out and enhance that aspect of Krishna's pastimes. It is quite natural, Krishna's continuing, it is quite natural for these Vrindavan inhabitants to thus receive a great personality like you. The herbs, creepers, and plants are also so fortunate to touch your lotus feet. And by your touching the twigs with your fingernails, these small plants are also made glorious. As for the hills and the rivers, they too are now glorious, because you are glancing at them. Above all, the damsels of Braja, the gopis, are the most glorious, because you embrace them with your long arms, being attracted by their beauty. So, as Krishna has his gopis, Balram also has his. So they're separate gopis. So Krishna's gopis, then they have a conjugal relationship with Krishna, but a friendship relationship with Balram. And Balaram's gopis have a conjugal relationship with him, but a friendship rasa with Krishna. In this way, Lord Krishna and Balaram began to enjoy the residents of Vrindavan to their full satisfaction, as they herded the calves and cows on the bank of the Jamuna. In some places, Krishna and Balaram were accompanied by their friends. The boys were singing, imitating the humming of the sounds of the drones, and accompanying Krishna and Balaram, who were garlanded with forest flowers. While walking, the boys sometimes imitated the quacking sound of the swans in the lakes. Or when they saw the peacocks dancing, they imitated them before Krishna. Krishna also moved his neck, imitating the dancing and making his friends laugh. The cows taken care of by Krishna had different names, and Krishna would call them with love. After hearing Krishna's calling, the cows would immediately respond by mooing, and the boys would enjoy this exchange to their heart's content. Right? Because when he'd call a particular cow, that cow would moo. So then as he would call the different cows and that, because he has 900,000 cows, but all these cows are divided into 108 groups. So then there's 108 lead cows, and then they lead all the others in their group, and that way there's 900,000. And that's how cows work. There's a head of the group, and everybody follows them. It doesn't work another way. It's not like they try to have some kind of like a coup or something and take over. No, it's just, there's the head, and that's just the way it is. So wherever the head goes, they follow. Right. Yes, and so then he would call out these 108 names, and then they would move wherever they are. And so that would be very, very fun for the boys. They would all imitate the sound vibrations made by the different kinds of birds, especially the chakoras, peacocks, cuckoos, and bharadvajas. Sometimes when they would see the weaker animals fleeing out of fear of the sounds of tigers and lions, the boys, along with Krishna and Balaram, would imitate the animals and run away with them. Right? So they're not running after them, they're running with them. It's a difference. So they're not harassing the animals. Not that they're in a weaker position, so therefore then they take that stronger and then try to harass. No, they're running because they heard the tigers, so then they also run along. When they felt some fatigue, they would sit down, and Balaram would put his head on the lap of one of the boys just to take rest. And Krishna would immediately come and begin massaging the legs of Balaram. And sometimes Krishna would make a palm fan and fan the body of Balram, causing a pleasing breeze to relieve him of his fatigue. Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balram took rest. So we see from this that even though Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and Balaram is actually his servant, that for Krishna, rendering service is actually the most pleasing. Because Balaram is trying to please Krishna, and so he's accepting Krishna's respect for him as an elder brother in that relationship. So that's a very important aspect, that service is actually the most pleasurable thing. Sometimes we think that sitting back and somebody peeling grapes for us or that will be the most nice arrangement, but it's actually rendering service is the best. Like we see Lord Chaitanya in his pastimes also. when it came time for serving prasad, he would want to serve prasad. But because he would eat enough for 5 devotees himself, when he would serve like that also. So then they would have to politely ask him to sit down because no one could eat that much for 5 people. So, yeah. Other boys would sometimes dance or sing while Balram took rest, and sometimes they would wrestle amongst themselves or jump. When the boys were thus engaged, Krishna would immediately join them, and catching their hands, he would enjoy their company and laugh and praise their activities. And so that they're doing nice, and that thing is to praise. It encourages, inspires. They're pleased, and then they do more, and in this way, then everything goes on nicely. So we can see is that all these nice qualities, they all come from Krishna's pastimes, and that. It means we may find some inspiration from some contemporary environment, but we should know that if anything's nice, it's because it originally came from Krishna. But then in Krishna's pastimes, it is Krishna conscious, it is in relationship to him, it hasn't become distracted. Right? So it's just the proper way of dealing, because then people can be inspired in Krishna consciousness. When Krishna would feel tired and fatigued, he would sometimes take shelter of the root of a big tree or the lap of a cowherd boy and lie down. When he would lie down with a boy or a root as his pillow, some of the boys would come and massage his legs, and some would fan his body with a fan made from leaves. Some of the more talented boys would sing in very sweet voices to please him. Thus, very soon his fatigue would go away. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, whose legs were tended by the goddess of fortune, shared himself with the cowherd boys as one of them, expanding his internal potency to appear exactly like a village boy. And because he is rasa, so therefore any aspect that is there, then he can manifest. But that's done through his internal potency. That's the whole point, is he being the potent. Then he gets everything done through his energy. So when he wants to take the form of a cowherd boy, that's through his internal potency. When he wants to be very attractive to the cowherd girls, that's through his internal potency. Or the son of Mother Jashoda, that's through his internal potency. So we see is that he does everything through this potency. Makes sense? Yeah. But despite his appearing just like a village boy, there were occasions when he proved himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because that's who he is, but he does things through human methods. Right? Like, for an example, if it's raining, what do? Right? If you're outside and it starts to rain, what do you do? Well, okay. Let's say if you were in London and it started to rain, what would you do? You put up your umbrella. Yeah, I'm sure here the Aussies are more tough, so they just rough it, right? Yeah, yeah. They say, chew on bricks for breakfast. Yeah. So how you say, umbrellas are for the, how you say, the weak-minded, and that's okay. Yeah. So, but here is that you could say a traditional form of dealing with the rain is an umbrella. So Krishna then, when Indra poured rain, then he put up an umbrella. Just his umbrella happened to be Govardhan Hill, and it was big enough to fit all the residents of Vrindavan and all the cows and everybody under. Right? Does that make sense? So he still does it in human ways, but he does it on such a scale that you can understand he's the personality of Godhead. But in it, he keeps that mood of that cowherd boy, so then everybody can still relate to him. So he doesn't lose that aspect. Though he proves he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he never takes on that mood of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right, with the residents of Vrindavan. Sometimes men pose themselves as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and cheat innocent people, but they can only cheat. They cannot exhibit the potency of God. While Krishna was thus engaged in his transcendental pastimes, exhibiting his internal potency to the company of the supermost fortunate cowherd boys, there occurred another chance for him to exhibit the superhuman powers of Godhead. His most intimate friends, Sridham, Subal, and Stoka Krishna, addressed Krishna and Balram with great love and affection thus: Dear Balram, you are very powerful. Your arms are very strong. Dear Krishna, you are very expert in killing all kinds of disturbing demons. Will you kindly note that just near this place, there is a big forest of the name Talavan. This forest is full of palm trees, and all the trees are filled with fruits. Some have fallen down, and some are very ripe, even in the trees. It is a very nice place. Because of a great demon, Denakasura, it is very difficult to go there. No one can reach the trees to collect the fruits. Dear Krishna and Balaram, this demon is present there in the form of an ass, and he is surrounded by similar demon friends who have assumed the same shape. All of them are very strong, so it is very difficult to approach this place. Dear brothers, you are the only persons who can kill such demons. Other than you, no one can go there for the fear of being killed. So it's not that they're dealing that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's just that he's their friend and he's so strong he can kill the demons. You understand? Like in Dwarka, at this point, then they would be referring to him as the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, and that he's the creator, maintaining, destroyer. So therefore, that's why he can do these things. For the cowherd boys, there's just no, Krishna and Balaram are just their friends, their intimate friends, and they just happen to be that powerful that they can get rid of these demons. So having that nature of kind of being friendly and therefore on an equal level, it's that we would like to go there to enjoy this, but there's a problem. But since you can kill all the demons, then there's no problem, with this, so we can go there and enjoy these fruits. Right? Not even animals go there, and no birds are living there. They have all left. One can only appreciate the sweet aroma that is coming from that place. It appears that up until now, no one has tasted the sweet fruits there, either on the tree or on the ground. Dear Krishna, because these tall fruits, they're very, very big fruits. So on the tree, you get them off the tree, or they fall on the ground, that means they're very ripe. Because then within it they have this kind of juice, and then the fruit itself is a very kind of solid kind of fruit. So it's not a problem if it falls on the ground like that. They're quite big. Dear Krishna, to tell you frankly, we are very attracted by this sweet aroma. Dear Balaram, if you like, let us all go there and enjoy these fruits. The aroma of the fruits is now spread everywhere. Don't you smell it from here? When Balaram and Krishna were thus petitioned by their intimate friends, they were inclined to please them, and with smiling faces they proceeded towards the forest, surrounded by all their friends. Immediately upon entering the Talavan, Balaram began to yank the trees with his arms, exhibiting the strength of an elephant. Because of this jerking, all the ripe fruits fell down on the ground. Upon hearing the sound of the falling fruits, the demon Denakasura, who was living there in the form of an ass, approached with great force, shaking the whole field, so that all the trees moved as if there was an earthquake. And because there's so many fruits, and if you shake the tree and they all fall, they're quite big and the trees are quite tall. So they'll make quite a loud sound, right? Especially if he's doing that on many trees, because what does that mean? You won't have just so many falling like that. There's no wind, there's no reason for them to fall. So then Denakasura will know that somebody has come into the forest. The demon appeared before Balaram and kicked his chest with his hind legs. At first, Balaram did not say anything, but with great anger, the demon kicked him again more vehemently, right? So he kicks him and he doesn't do anything. So naturally that makes the demon more angry. So he tries harder, right? This time, Balaram immediately caught hold of the legs of the ass with one hand, and wheeling him around, threw him into the treetops. Right, so if he kicked him, okay, that's there. He's guarding the forest, but then he does it again. So then he just catches, but with one hand. So when he goes to kick him, he just grabs both and then swings him around. While he was being wheeled around by Balaram, the demon lost his life. Balram threw the demon into the biggest palm tree about, and the demon's body was so heavy that the palm tree fell upon other trees, and several fell down. It appeared as if a great hurricane was passing through the forest, and all the trees were falling down one after another. This exhibition of ordinary strength is not astonishing, because Balaram is the personality of Godhead, known as Anantasesh Nag, who is holding all the planets on the hooves of his millions of heads. He maintains the whole cosmic manifestation exactly as the horizontal and vertical threads hold the weaving of a cloth. Right? Because the thread's not that strong, but when they're woven together, then you have that fabric, and everything is then maintained. So that's how Balram, he's pervading everything from every direction. Therefore, the whole universe is held in place. Everything is in its position. So therefore, since the whole universe is there, and there's millions of universes, and Balaram's holding it all together, so it's not astonishing that Balaram is throwing Dinakasura and knocking down all these different trees. After the demon had been thrown into the trees, all the friends and associates of Dinakasura immediately assembled and attacked Balaram and Krishna with great force. They were determined to retaliate and avenge the death of their friend. But Krishna and Balaram caught each of the asses by the hind legs, and exactly in the same way wheeled them around. Thus, they killed all of them and threw them into the palm trees. Because of the dead bodies of the asses, there was a panoramic scene. It appeared as if clouds of various colors were assembled in the trees. Hearing of this great incident, the demigods from the higher planets showered flowers on Krishna and Balaram and beat their drums and offered devotional prayers. Right? So Dinakasura was very big, biggest of all of them. And so he was very big and thrown with such force that he fell into the biggest tree, knocked that tree over, that knocked over several other trees. But then these other demons, they swing him around and throw him so that they actually land in the tree and stay in the tree. So then it looks like you have all these nice various colored clouds and all the different trees around, and it gives a very nice panoramic view. Right? A few days after the killing of Dinakasura, people began to come into the Talavan forest to collect the fruits, and animals began to return without fear to the nice grasses growing there. Just by chanting or hearing these transcendental activities and pastimes of the brothers Krishna and Balaram, one can amass pious activities. Right? Because pious activities are then, they're the appropriate activity to be done that then gives a good result. But a material pious activity will only culminate in material facility. But when the pious activity is connected to Krishna, that pious activity gives devotional credit. So that's the real pious activity, the real purpose of pious activities. So just by hearing how Krishna and Balaram perform their pastimes, then that gives so much unlimited piety. When Krishna and Balaram entered the village of Vrindavan, along with their friends, they played their flutes, and the boys praised their uncommon activities in the forest. Their faces were decorated with tilak and smeared with the dust raised by the cows, and Krishna's head was decorated with a peacock feather. Both he and Balaram played their flutes, and the young gopis were joyous to see Krishna returning home. All the gopis in Vrindavan remained very morose on account of Krishna's absence. All day they were thinking of Krishna in the forest, or of him herding cows in the pasture. When they saw Krishna returning, all their anxieties were immediately relieved. They began to look at his face the way drones hover over the honey of the lotus flower. When Krishna entered the village, the young gopis smiled and laughed. Krishna, while playing the flute, enjoyed the beautiful smiling faces of the gopis. When Krishna and Balaram were immediate, so it's a matter of these. It is the various methods of expressing affection, like the cowherd boys and their expression of affection. Then was how Krishna and Balaram are their close friends, and how as friends there's that, especially those who are equal, there's that close or that chivalrous aspect. And so they're appreciating that very powerful position of Krishna and Balaram and how they can take care of everything and make everything happen very nicely. And so in the same way then, for those dealing with Krishna and the conjugal rasa, it means the conjugal rasa is the way they express the affection. Because it's not about that how you say, that they're females that attracts Krishna. It's that they're worshiping Krishna through the medium or the nature of femininity. That's what becomes attractive. When Krishna and Balaram were immediately received by their affectionate mothers, Jashoda and Rohini, who, according to the time's demands, began to fulfill the desires of their affectionate sons. Simultaneously, the mothers rendered service and bestowed benediction upon their transcendental sons. They took care of their children by bathing them and dressing them very nicely. Krishna was dressed in yellowish garments, and Balram was dressed in bluish garments, and they were given all sorts of ornaments and flower garlands. Being relieved of the fatigue of their day's work in the pasturing grounds, they looked refreshed and very beautiful. Right, so Krishna wears yellow garments because it reminds him like of Radharani, because that's her color. And Balaram wears bluish garments because they remind him of Krishna. Right? They were given palatable dishes by their mother, and they pleasantly ate everything. After eating, they were seated nicely on clean bedding, and the mothers began to sing various songs of their activities. As soon as they lay down on the bedding, they very quickly fell fast asleep. In this way, Krishna and Balram used to enjoy Vrindavan life as cowherd boys. So he sees that's the position where it comes, where mothers, when they're putting their children to sleep, then they sing songs, because that's originally there in Mother Jashoda. That's just the nature of the rasa. So that's why it's there. So then they sing about the activities of Krishna and Balaram and all that. So all it is they have to sing and put the words together, and that's good enough, because it's done out of affection. So it's not that they have to, sit down and work on the songs, and they're not quite ready with their song for tonight. And, no, it's just, they just sing and they just put it together and somehow or another do that, just like, does that make sense? So it's just the way moms work, right? Sometimes Krishna used to go with his cowherd friends and Balaram, and sometimes he used to go alone with his friends to the bank of the Jamuna and tend the cows. Gradually, the summer season arrived, and one day, while in the field, the boys and cows became very thirsty, began to drink the water of the Jamuna. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next one. Where's that? 19, 18, yes, chapter 18. After extinguishing the devastating fire, Krishna, surrounded by his relatives, friends, cows, calves, bulls, and glorified by his friends singing, again entered Vrindavan, which is always full of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan in the midst of the cowherd boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. The summer season in India is not very much welcome because of the excessive heat. But in Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. This was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, or the controllers even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. In Vrindavan, there are many falls which are always pouring water, and the sound is so sweet that it covers the sounds of the crickets. And because water flows all over, the forest always looks very green and beautiful, right? So this aspect of flowing water, especially waterfalls and that, so then we see is it's very much a common feature that people try to include into an arrangement that they consider as very aesthetically attractive. So put in waterfalls or fountains or something, that sound, and it's a very nice sound. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, you understand the idea. The point is that whatever we find that is special and nice is because that's what happens in Vrindavan. And that the difference is in Vrindavan, everything is being done, as Krishna was pointing out before, to please Krishna and Balaram. Well, in the material world, we make the same arrangements to please ourselves. So that's the weakness, right? So when we take everything that's here, use it to please Krishna, then that's when it becomes very nice. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were never disturbed by the scorching heat of the sun or the high summer temperatures. The lakes of Vrindavan were surrounded by green grasses, and various kinds of lotus flowers bloomed there, such as the kahlara, kanja, and utpala. And the air blowing in Vrindavan carries the aromatic pollen of these lotus flowers. When the particles of water from the waves of the Jamuna, the lakes, and the waterfalls touched the bodies of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they automatically felt a cooling effect. Therefore, they were practically undisturbed by the summer season. Right? So the winds would then blow by those places, over the water, by the waterfalls, and then pick up the pollen from the lotus flowers and the mist from the waterfalls, and then that would be carried through Vrindavan. And so then when that would touch the Lord and the devotees, and everyone would feel that cooling or that refreshing aspect. Vrindavan is such a nice place. Flowers are always blooming, and there are even various kinds of decorated deer. Birds are chirping, peacocks are crowing and dancing, and bees are humming. The cuckoos there sing nicely in 5 kinds of tunes. Right, so they have the cuckoos, they use 5 different notes, and they also have different tunes that they use these notes with. So that's why then you'll see it mentions that they have 5 kinds of tunes, that they're always using these kind of aspects, so it's very pleasant. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, blowing his flute, accompanied by his elder brother Balram and the other cowherd boys and the cows, entered the beautiful forest of Vrindavan to enjoy the atmosphere. They walked into the midst of newly grown leaves of trees, whose flowers resembled peacock feathers. They were garlanded by those flowers and decorated with saffron chalk. Sometimes they were dancing and singing, and sometimes wrestling with one another. While Krishna danced, some of the cowherd boys sang, and others played on flutes. Some bugled on buffalo horns or clapped their hands, praising Krishna. "Dear brother, you are dancing very nicely." Because no one's envious or jealous, so something's done well, it's always appreciated. So as he does something nice, he appreciates. The cowherd boys do something nice, and Krishna appreciates them. So it's a natural culture. Right? Actually, all these boys were demigods descended from higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. The demigods garbed in the dress of the cowherd boys were encouraging Krishna in his dancing, just as one artist encourages another with praise. Right, so then Krishna's eternal associates, then they expand into the different devotees that are there in Dwarka, then down into Vaikuntha, then down into the material world as the various demigods that are there. Then they'll appear in Krishna's pastimes here. So it's interesting is that they're the same original personalities, but then they've come from this aspect. So then it nicely fits into the human pastimes, right? Because they're going to say, oh, they've come down from here. So you're going to have both. Those who are living entities who they are trying to come up into the pastimes, elevate themselves to the pastimes, and they're coming from these positions. And there's those who are coming down from the spiritual world. So you're going to get both. Up to that time, neither Balram nor Krishna had undergone the hair-cutting ceremony. Therefore, their hair was clustered like crow's feathers. They were always playing hide and seek with their boyfriends, or jumping or fighting with them, right? Because if you look at crows, then their feathers, they're not exactly always in line. They kind of go in and overlap a little bit, very pleasant, very lightly. But if you look carefully, then you can see that that's what it does. And now and again, then they'll ruffle their feathers to try to make them more straight. But they always tend to be a little bit overlapping. And also then the crow's feathers, it looks like they're black, but if you check when the light's there, it's got that little bit of bluish in it. It's little blue-black. So that's the color of Krishna and Balaram's hair. They were always playing hide and seek with their boyfriends, or jumping or fighting with them. Sometimes while his friends were chanting and dancing, Krishna would praise them. "My dear friends, you are chanting and singing. You are dancing and singing very nicely." The boys played at catching ball with fruits such as bale and amlaka. They played blind man's bluff, challenging and touching one another. Sometimes they imitated the forest deer and various kinds of birds. They joked with one another by imitating croaking frogs, and they enjoyed swinging beneath the trees. Sometimes they would play amongst themselves like a king and his subjects. In this way, Balaram and Krishna, along with all their friends, played all kinds of sports and enjoyed the soothing atmosphere of Vrindavan, full of lakes, rivers, rivulets, fine trees, and excellent gardens filled with fruits and flowers. So you see, if children are just there on their own, then they make up all these things themselves. They don't actually require things. Whatever's there naturally, they just take that and turn that into things. Right? So then they play with the different things, and they have all these different pastimes. So they don't, in the natural environment, they don't actually need anything. They create it with their own, their own imagination, their own intelligence. Once, while the boys were engaged in their transcendental pastimes, a great demon of the name Pralambasura entered their company, desiring to kidnap both Balram and Krishna. Although Krishna was playing the part of a cowherd boy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could understand everything, past, present, and future. So when Pralambasura entered their company, Krishna began to think how to kill the demon. But externally he received him as a friend. "Oh, my dear friend," he said, "it is very good that you have come to take part in our pastimes." Krishna then called all his friends, because technically the demon, being a living entity, is Krishna's servant. So from that aspect, he is welcoming his friend. But at the same time, because his servant has taken on the mood of a demon, therefore that demon aspect has to be removed so he can actually become purified and come back to his natural position. Krishna then called all his friends and ordered them, "Now we shall play in pairs. We shall challenge one another in pairs." With this proposal, all the boys assembled together. Some of them took the side of Krishna, and some of them took the side of Balram, and they arranged to play in duel. The defeated members in duel fighting had to carry the victorious members on their backs, as a horse carries its master. They began playing, and at the same time tended the cows as they proceeded through the Bandiravan forest. The party of Balram, accompanied by Sridham and Vrishabha, came out victorious, and Krishna's party had to carry them on their backs through the Bandiravan forest. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being defeated, had to carry Sridham on his back. Bhadrasena carried Vrishabha. Imitating their play, Pralambasura, who appeared there as a cowherd boy, carried Balram on his back, right? Because he was looking for an opportunity to kidnap them. So then Krishna arranged so that that could happen, right? Because that way it gives the demon the opportunity, and then they take care of the demon. Pralambasura was the greatest of the demons, and he had calculated that Krishna was the most powerful of the cowherd boys. In order to avoid the company of Krishna, Pralambasura carried Balram far away. The demon was undoubtedly very strong and powerful, but he was carrying Balram, who is compared to a mountain. Therefore he began to feel the burden, and thus he assumed his real form. Right? Because he's carrying Balram, but because he doesn't have that devotion and things like that. So it's not that then they'll go on and through the aspect of Yoga Maya, then everything will work out. But because he's a demon, then he starts to feel that weight and everything. And so then he naturally then takes on his own form. Because as a cowherd boy, he'll be in a small form, but as Pralambasura, he'll be very big and very powerful. So you feel he can take care of it very nicely. When he appeared in his real feature, he was decorated with a golden helmet and earrings and looked just like a cloud with lightning carrying the moon. Balram observed the demon's body expanding up to the limits of the clouds, his eyes dazzling like blazing fire and his mouth flashing with sharpened teeth. At first, Balram was surprised by the demon's appearance, and he began to wonder, how is it that all of a sudden this carrier has changed in every way? Right? So even Balram, even though he's taking care of all the arrangements, it's his potency that is taking care. So he also, like Krishna, then functions under this aspect of mugdata, which means that they aren't focusing on their aspect of knowing everything. They just deal as things unfold by the arrangement of his internal potency. So even Balram then is surprised, how is this demon suddenly becomes very different than he was before. But with a clear mind, he could quickly understand that he was being carried away from his friends by a demon who intended to kill him. Immediately he struck the head of the demon with his strong fist, just as the king of the heavenly planets strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt. Stricken by the fist of Balram, the demon fell down dead, just like a snake with a smashed head, and blood poured from his mouth. When the demon fell, he made a tremendous sound, and it sounded as if a great hill were falling upon being struck by the thunderbolt of King Indra. All the boys then rushed to the spot. Astonished by the ghastly scene, they began to praise Balram with the words, "Well done, well done." Right? Because up to now, then so many demons come and attack Vrindavan. But Krishna takes care of them. So you could say it's a pride amongst the cowherd boys that they're friends with Krishna and Balram, and they take care of all these demoniac elements. So then seeing this, like we saw before, then something done well, then they praise Balram, how he so nicely made these arrangements. All of them then embraced Balram with great affection, thinking that he had returned from death. And they offered their blessings and congratulations. All the demigods in the heavenly planets became very satisfied and showered flowers on the transcendental body of Balram. And they also offered their blessings and congratulations for his having killed the great demon Pralambasura. So we see in these pastimes then, Krishna and Balram are taking care, and the main focus is their association with their cowherd boyfriends. And then occasionally as they come up, then these various demons are there on various situations. And then these demons are then removed from the situation. So this is all part of it, all attracts the mind. At the same time, it also removes the various impurities within the heart, because as we are absorbed in the Lord, then that purifies the heart. So in this we have two aspects. One, just being absorbed in the Lord's pastimes, that removes so many impurities within the heart. But at the same time is that we should be trying to appreciate that maintaining material desires is not good. So we're making an effort to try to act on the pure platform, free from doing things out of the desire for fruitive results or from the desire for liberation. So when that effort is there, that pleases Balram. And then by his grace, then we can be freed from material desire and that desire to think I'm the controller and enjoyer. So that combination of performance of devotional service and appreciating that the performance of devotional service is actually the highest principle, and so those things that are obstacles, we should be willing to give them up. Then that pleases Lord Balram, because then you are trying to please Krishna and you are making that effort. And then he, with his blessings, then we are able to become freed from all kinds of material attachments like that. And then freed from those attachments, then we can be engaged very nicely in Krishna's service. Yes? Mm-hmm. Something? No? Okay, so we'll stop here. Jai. Shri Baladeva ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi.